is there something that you're compromising on this bike? If you are in the market trying to buy an adventure motorcycle, the KTM Adventure 350 and the Himalayan 450 are very good offerings. But there is one more strong consideration which offers the levels of premiumness that both those machines can't.
Let's add a data logger and measure a few things on this bike, shall we?
One thing that I also found common on this bike that goes with the KTM as well is the presence of two O2 sensors. One here and one here. But one small change is the distance between the oxygen sensors is much farther away here. So I think that is how they have achieved that thumpiness. You see, the KTMs always have this problem. When you have to do quick transitions, the front would move around a little. What I see is here they welded a plate and that increases the stiffness on this bike.
These mirrors create a lot of blind spots. The upshifts are slightly jumpy. The ratios are linear, but does it reflect on the drivability of this bike? Now, this is not really a gearbox issue. So what I see with KTMs and engines derived out of KTMs is,
if you are in the market trying to buy an adventure motorcycle, the KTM Adventure 350 and the Himalayan 450 are very good offerings. But there is one more strong consideration which offers the levels of premiumness that both those machines can't. But is there something that you're compromising on this bike? We'll tell you whether this bike meets your highway cruising requirements or not. And finally, we'll give you the list of 5 things that we love and hate about this motorcycle.
let's add a data logger and measure a few things on this bike, shall we? On any other bike, I would have pasted it somewhere, but this bike looks so beautiful, it looks so clean that I don't feel like sticking this anywhere. Let me just put it in my pocket and we'll start our trials. Okay, GPS is taking time to log on. This is a very fast bike to a point where it requires you to hold on when you are accelerating. But the only problem is there is nothing much here to hold on to. So all I have is to lock my heels against the heel plate and hold on with my thighs. So for taller riders, you have good support here. But for shorter riders like myself, you will have to hold on to the seat itself. Beautiful power on offer, very refined. 80 kph on this bike is a breeze. I'm currently in 4th gear and let me slowly accelerate. So you see that there is very good pull straight from 4000 rpm. Beyond 4000 rpm, there is a lot of torque on offer. And the engine is also very thumpy and engaging. It will ensure that you are alert all the time. But it also has another character. Let's say I have to chill and cruise right now. Becomes really sane. And if I have to do any overtakes, all I have to do is slightly go on throttle. And you see how the speed builds up. Beautiful. And there is good air circulation around my legs, so that if I have to spend longer times on the saddle, it does not feel like my legs are heating up too much. The more parts of your body that is in contact with the bike, the more irritation you feel. On this bike, except for the seat, there isn't a lot of things that you are touching on the bike when you are saddling. In city speeds, what I see is there is ample lot of torque on offer straight from 4000 rpm, and you can short shift all day long on this bike. Don't really have to worry about the speeds that you are maintaining. The RPMs don't really matter much because of the torque on offer. When you need a quick getaway, there is also good power on offer, which will help get you to good speeds and then cruise from there. Even in 6th gear, there is a lot of torque on offer. That's a very nice feeling to have, especially if you have to overtake. So if you are in 6th gear and you have to overtake from 70 or 80 kph, you don't really have to downshift. All you have to do is go slightly higher on throttle and you're sorted. And the mid-range thump is still there. This is one of those bikes that you can take on long rides where you want to introspect and get lost in thought. And the engine and the induction noise on this engine will actually keep your mind aware that you're still riding a bike. It's not one of those bikes that will make you disconnected. You know exactly what is happening.
One thing that I also found common on this bike that goes with the KTM as well is the presence of two O2 sensors. One here and one here. But one small change is the distance between the oxygen sensors, O2 sensors, is much farther away here. Which means the tune on this had to be separately done compared to the KTM. So I think that is how they have achieved that thumpiness, the intake whine. Triumphs have always been known for the intake whine, and there is a bit of whine on this as well. That gives you a sense of exclusivity that you only get with bigger Triumphs. And I'm happy to see that on this.
I hope the data is recording. Let me verify that once. Yep, it's recording. So we spoke about the engine, we checked out the acceleration. Now let's check out the gearbox. What we'll do is, we'll do 4000 RPM in each gear and see what speeds this does. 4000 RPM, first gear, 20 kph. 4000 RPM, second gear, around 32 kph. Fourth gear is around 53 kph. And finally, sixth gear, 70 kph. So you see, the gear ratio is very linear. With every change in gear at the same RPM, the shift in speed is exactly 10 kph. This is the same trend that I see on KTMs as well. In order to see how this works, we'll do a clutchless upshift and downshift. This is an indication of the drivability of this bike. First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth, fifth, sixth. So the gear shift on this is slick. Like, the feedback that you get from the lever is actually very crisp. It does not have a lot of travel, but with every upshift, the bike wanted to jump a little. Now let's try downshifts and see if things change. Oh, downshifts are very good. I think whatever happened previously was because I was in the wrong RPM for the upshift. Let me upshift in slightly higher RPMs. Ah, now it comes alive. So that was the problem. Clutchless downshift. So the downshifts are very good at 4000 RPM or closer to that, but the upshifts are slightly jumpy. Now this is not really a gearbox issue. So what I see with KTMs and engines derived out of KTMs is the agile nature of the piston is what makes this engine and this bike a very quick and a very responsive machine. One thing that I want slight improvement on are these mirrors. These mirrors create a lot of blind spots, and for what this machine is capable of, improving the visibility will make a huge difference. This is a very enjoyable motorcycle, man. We spoke about the engine and the gearbox. Now it's time to talk about the brakes.
Speaking about the brakes, there is a large 320mm front rotor. There is a radially mounted caliper, which means the bite is very quick.
The bike is capable of getting to good cruising speeds and staying there. The brakes, on the other hand, offer a different character. It's very gradual. There is one thing I really like about the setup, which is, unlike most adventure vehicles, which dive the moment you touch the brakes, this is very gradual. So the front brakes offer a progressive deceleration. Coast is clear. You see that? You see how predictable that was? Now, one thing to notice, the deceleration is not too aggressive, not too quick, but it is progressive and matches the nature of this bike. If you want better deceleration, you can definitely switch to the sintered pads, but that might also bring about an increase in the diving feel when braking. If you're somebody who is okay with that, you can shift to sintered pads. See, if you grab a handful, the bike can stop in a jiffy. And this bike is more comfort oriented rather than a sporty, fast deceleration oriented.
Moving on to the rear. On most bikes, while I check out the rear brakes, I'll have to go to the other side. But on this, the position of the sprocket and the brake disc is actually swapped. This marks the Triumph's heritage, and their entire lineup looks more or less similar.
The rear brakes give you the predictability that you need. Definitely not sufficient to just stop with the rear brakes. That is the case with most big bikes today, but creates a good stability feel.
Before we move on to the next section, I'd like to share something with you. It took a lot of effort to bring this video in front of you, and 90% of our viewers have not subscribed to our channel. This will cost you nothing, but it will keep us motivated to bring the best automotive content in front of you. So please don't forget to subscribe. On with the video.
Now that was about brakes. Now it's time to talk about handling. Let's check out the handling on this bike, starting off with low speed stability. So I'm trying to maintain 10 kph on this bike, and if I have to go any lower, the torque from the engine is actually pushing you forward more than the front brake. Using the rear brake stabilizes the bike better. Very less steering corrections. For throttle modulation required, it's more of brake modulation that is required to maintain very low speeds. Some amount of modulation required to maintain very low speeds. This is your traffic speed. So if you are in bumper to bumper traffic, these are the speeds that you'll end up maintaining. Only thing that you'll have to be a little careful of, or rather you'll have to get used to, is the width of the handlebar. This handlebar is very wide, which means when you're in traffic, it will be slightly tricky to get around people. Now let's build some speed and try out single lane change. So let's do this. We'll go to the right. Wow, that was very quick. Now let's come back to the same lane. To initiate a corner, what I do is, if I have to go right, I push on the right. So to initiate a corner, this is very easy. The CG height makes it very responsive. But the same CG height, which actually helps you go into corners, will work against you when you have to pick it back up. The way it enters into a corner, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Very quick. Let me show that again. See, goes in very quick. But picking it back up, it is slightly hesitant. But the single lane change is indicative of you trying to avoid an obstacle. And in terms of avoiding an obstacle, this does a very good job. Now let's move on to double lane change. This test is indicative of you overtaking something. Fifth gear. Coast is clear. Let's go to the right. In. Back into the same lane. Stabilize. Oh, that was very, very predictable. And this is where the torque also aids the overall stability of the bike. Small modulation in throttle is actually helping the bike stabilize much better. And the effort is also not too much.
When it comes to the dynamics of this bike, the chassis is very nicely done. If you see, the KTMs always have this problem where when you have to do quick transitions, the front would move around a little. What I see is, here they've welded a plate and that increases the stiffness on this bike. Probably that is the reason why this feels completely different. However, the mounting on the engine is more or less the same. There is one mount here and there will be another mount here. You see this part, this subframe part, this part is more or less what you see in KTMs as well, but on KTM it is much thinner. Now in most places, here and here, what we see is they've slightly stiffened up the chassis. The overall construction is still the same. The more I look at this vehicle, the more I see that they've done a lot of things that are slightly more than what was required, and that is adding to the overall feel of this bike.
Bike feels happy going into corners. Very responsive also. See how nimble that is.
Speaking about the comfort, the front has long travel suspensions, and couple that with 19-inch wheels, and the front end can take up a lot of broken patches without getting you worried. But it is not numb. You still get the feedback that you would need, but it is very mellowed. Moving to the rear suspensions are definitely offset. On the KTMs, the offset is towards the right, but over here you see it on the left. Now, the rear suspensions have adjustability for preload, but more than that, I don't see much. To be honest, I wouldn't really complain about the suspensions on this bike. It has the capabilities that it needs without having the need for adjustable suspensions. Pretty good in the stock setup, and I'd probably tweak the preload a little and probably the fork height a little to match my preference. Overall, great package in terms of comfort.
You see this broken patch? I don't feel anything. Any other bike, I would have felt a lot of inputs on the handlebar, on the foot pegs and on the seat. But this bike takes it all. So that is how good the suspension setup is for broken patches. Such a peaceful place to ride. And I think I have the right bike today as well. Let's hit a patch. Nothing. On all these broken patches, I really don't have to slow down. On other bikes, I'll have to be a little mindful. But on this, all I have to do is pick myself up. We have a bump here. See, nothing. The bike gives you the confidence and tells you that, hey, I'm capable of all this. You don't really have to slow down.
One thing to note is the seat comfort. If you see, there is ample lot of cushioning on the seat, both for the rider and for the pillion. So this is a very comfortable seat. Only thing is, if I have to nitpick a little, I would have preferred a slightly different material trim. See, this material is actually very smooth, and I would have preferred a bit more roughness on this. That would have ensured that I don't slide around a bit. I would have preferred this small addition. I see why they have not done that, because it would have gone against the design. But if there are options available where I can swap the seat, then I'll definitely consider it. Let's check out the ergonomics on this bike. We'll lift this up. You see this? For somebody who is 5'5", 5'6", I can reach on both sides. And the machine is also very light, and the distribution of the weight is such that I can actually move around quite easily, not having to fear the weight of the bike. And in terms of the rider triangle, position of the foot peg, the seat position, and the handlebar makes this a very comfortable ride. And the other thing that you'll have to notice, if I have to pick myself up, I can do a complete squat without touching the handlebar. So that is how comfortable this bike is.
So if I have to stand, the position of the foot pegs actually make it very easy for me to pick myself up. So nice work on the ergonomics.
Tank looks really muscular, and the offset fuel lid is a nice addition. And the way the lid opens is also very beautiful. Check this out. See how clean that is? The subframe is nicely exposed, and the color actually goes with the overall bike's character. One thing that I was actually worried about in the previous design, but that has changed, is the matte finish. Gloss finish on the previous offering actually made it very difficult to maintain. But on this, I can be slightly less careful and I'll still get away with it. The upward pointing exhaust actually symbols that this can go off-road, and it has the capability to do that as well. I would take it on broken patches of road for trail riding, but for serious off-roading, I don't think this is the right machine. Let's check out the quality of components using our knock-knock test. This bike will cost you around 3.4 lakhs on road in Bengaluru. The bike gives you a mileage of 22 to 25 kmpl in the city and about 28 to 32 kmpl on the highways. There is one very good offering that Triumph is giving you today. Regardless of whether you are worried about E20 or not, Triumph gives you 5 years of extended warranty apart from the stock warranty that it offers at a cost of 2,600 rupees. And this is something that is definitely worth exploring. When you visit the showroom, don't forget to ask regarding this. Henny's Garage was started with an intent to help racers go faster around the racetrack. We want to use the expertise that we have built there to help you buy better products. If you need any help buying motorcycles or cars, you can reach out to us on WhatsApp. The link is in the description. Here are 5 things we love about this motorcycle. Number 1, the design of this motorcycle. Number 2, the torque at lower RPMs and the power at higher RPMs. Number 3, the ride comfort in the city, especially over broken roads. Number 4, the right mix of city and off-road ride that this bike can handle. Number 5, the sound of this engine. The sound of this engine is very engaging. Once you get used to the thump of this engine, along with the addition of the intake whine, it's very hard to not like this. Honestly, I'm nitpicking at this point, but here are the list of things that we hate about this motorcycle. Number 1, the vibrations on the handlebar, especially after 6000 RPM, can be a little irritating. Number 2, the leather seats on this bike can be slightly irritating, especially if you sweat a lot. Number 3, the wind blast on this bike is a little high. You can fix this easily by getting a visor. Number 4, if you are new to this category of motorcycle, the heating can be slightly irritating. Number 5, this is a pro becoming a con. The bike is so good looking that small scratches on this bike can really get to you. Thank you for watching this video till the very end. If you've enjoyed this video, probably you'll also like the Adventure 350 and the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450 videos. Check that out. Let's try something interesting. We'll hold a stethoscope to this engine and see what we get.